We're back with another 900 elo chess game, but today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be different because this is going to be more of an instructional video. I mean, I'll try to make all my videos at least a little bit instructional, but this, like, we're going to kind of get in the nitty gritty and talk about making plans in the middle game. Because I feel like it's something that a lot of players, especially at this elo, and even me, like struggle with making plans in the middle game, and it's pretty hard to just go about doing that, and a lot of people just ape. And we're gonna see in this game a lot of aping and not a lot of cohesive planning when maybe it could help. So let's talk about it. So black's up a knight, and there's like a bunch of different things you need to consider um, when making a middle game plan. But the main thing is you want to just consider the imbalances, okay? So obviously the material imbalance, black's up a knight. And then there's also piece activity, like this bishop isn't going anywhere. This, I mean, this rook is a little more active. Like if these pawns get traded off, these rooks aren't going anywhere. This rook's not going anywhere. This knight's not going anywhere because it can't go here, here, right? So black has more activity. Another thing is space. Space is basically the territory, like that's controlled by your pawns that you can put pieces on, or like that are behind your pawns. So black has more space as well, and king safety. And white has more king safety because the king is castled and black's king is still in the center. So white can maybe use this pawn push to try to open up the center at some point to try to get black's king. So if you're black and you're up a knight, okay, you got to be thinking about these imbalances that I just said and try to come up with a plan. Okay, so one imbalance I mentioned that white was doing better in is king safety. So black's plan to get the king safe would simply be to castle. Okay, castling here is as good as move as any, right? Another move to take advantage of the space is pawn to c4, uh, which clamps down on this square and this square, making it really hard for white to put pieces there. And then you can use the space advantage to launch a queenside pawn storm, moving this pawn up and trying to like break and like moving some pieces behind uh, this pawn maybe and this pawn to try to just like attack and just really constrict white's movements as you break through with the pawns. Um, to use material imbalance, you could trade off pieces. Now, this trade isn't really that good for black in my opinion, because even though it does, let me just, well, I guess white's moved now because I just played this, but it does trade off pieces, but it trades this knight that doesn't really have a lot of good prospects for this bishop. That's pretty good. So that's not necessarily the best trade, but you want to try to find ways you can trade pieces. Okay. Now instead of doing that, black goes for this ape man play with queen to c7, right? And this is the problem with low elo middle game plays, right? Is you're like, oh, I'm just gonna make this battery and monkey the king, and then what? Like then what? You take the pawn, and then the king moves out of the way. Like you have nothing. You have nothing. Your king is still vulnerable, right? So white plays e5, the best move, grabbing more space. Now white has rectified the space imbalance because white has all the space on the king side and black has all the space on the queen side. But that's kind of like it's imbalanced, but it's also balanced in a different way. Knight goes to e4. Now, here the best move actually for white is to sacrifice the rook, because now this pawn is super weak. And in fact, white can take advantage of the position being weakened for black immediately by going queen to g4, attacking this pawn, and attacking this pawn. And it just goes to show you like how quickly things can change, right? So you sacrifice the rook. Now, black is still majorly winning after the rook set. Oops, that's what actually got played in the game. Black is still majorly winning after this, right? Black's still super winning. But it kind of gives white some counter chances. So it's like, this is another thing to think about in middle game plans when you're down, is think about like, is there like, can I get counter chances on something, right? The counter chances are going to be the weak king, the weak pawns over here, obviously this pawn now is super weak, so at least get something. Anyway, what happened is this bishop moved up for no reason, and now white is trying to break in the center with f6, but there's literally no reason to be doing this, right? If you want to get castled, then then you have at least you bring another rook into the game and you at least have an attacker. But this follows no plan. This is just a one move of, oh, if he takes my pawn, then I do this, right? But this is actually what happens in the game. Okay, so that's black's plan. Okay, congratulations, you won a pawn. Now what? Now what? You have nothing. You have nothing. Okay, and this check accomplishes nothing. King moves out of the way. This check, which it's the best move because the queen was attacked, so you get the queen out with momentum there. Pawn blocks, knight gets out of the way with the check, okay? But you have nothing. The king is super safe here, okay? Now you have to think about, okay, this is the position that we have now, right? Let's talk about plans to this position. Well, this pawn is very weak. If this bishop moves, this pawn is hanging, right? This pawn could go here and be a little bit annoying, so you could take it with the knight. The best move recommended by the engine is to take this pawn, but me personally, I would just take this pawn. It gets a knight more into the game. It eliminates this pawn, which could cause some problems, and then you can castle next move, and then your rook attacks, your queen attacks, but this pawn's pretty strong because it's supported by this pawn. But you see the idea, right? The queenside space thing is still possible. It's not as good, just because you don't have enough pieces over there yet. The more important things are to take this pawn and get castled. But anyway, okay, we have a couple of the best moves, and now black's going to try and trade pieces. So that's good. This is an inaccuracy, but at least black's trying to trade pieces. They recognize that they're up a knight. Bunch of captures. But now, see, this is the problem. This is the problem. Because black did not get their king castled like they should have, now they give white counter chances. Okay? Now white can play this check, get their queen active, and after this block, white goes for a tactic. Knight takes on b5. Obviously, if you take back, then queen takes here, king goes here, only move, and then queen takes both rooks. So you don't want to be taking that knight. But, and this is more like a tactical thing than a middle game strategy thing, but it does allow black a couple moves to get out of this. One such move is knight to c4 check, and the knight's protected by this pawn. Another such move is queen to g5 check, which is a miswin because knight to c4 check is better. And also with knight to c4 check, right, you're also threatening this square, so if something like king d1, then you win the queen. So you're just that. You're also taking away more spaces from the king. I don't know where the king has to go here, anywhere but here. But you know, and it also blocks the queen from going here because the knight's in the way. You get a little nice knight outpost. But anyway, everything queen to g5 check, a move that accomplishes nothing. You play this check, king goes out of the way, and just imagine if you played knight to c4 check and this happened. You win the queen and the game. Okay, now black finally gets castled. Woohoo! Knight goes over here. Black doesn't realize that this pawn is hanging and blunders it, and white wins pawn. And now black captures back with the wrong piece. Should have captured back with the king because the queen was defending this knight, and now white is up. And so, as you could see from the game, black did not have a clear plan of attack. I try to give a lot of options. I'm going to try to find more examples of looking at these positions, trying to find middle game plans. Let me know what you think about this video if you found it useful. But basically, white went on to win the game. and if there's like any like suggestions or whatever, because I really want to help people get better at this game. So hope you enjoy.